Hey, this is Steve with Entering Into Space, and recently I shot the Horsehead Nebula. But I shot it in color. And then I also shot it in hydrogen alpha. So I thought I'd take some time here, what time is it? At 9 o'clock at night, and do a video on combining those two. So taking the color data and merging it with the hydrogen alpha data to create an HaRgb composite image. So let's get over here into Photoshop. I got two images loaded up here, and we'll get started, and I'll show you how I got those two combined. Okay, so here we are over here in Photoshop CC, and the first image that you're looking here is a fully processed RGB data. This was shot with the L Pro, and looks like we had 39 frames, light frames, shot at 3 minutes at ISO 800. And so I've done a full process on this and got it to a point. I haven't done any star reduction, I just got it to a point that I like. The other set we have here is, let's turn that deselect off. This is basically my hydrogen alpha data that was shot with the Optilong L Enhance. 34 frames, 5 minutes at ISO 800. And so this one does have the steps. So I did a background line. I got my background set to 35, red, green, and blue, all at 35 to even that background up. I did a little pre-curve to lift the data so that I can select it in color range and protect it when I do background noise. I did a curve stretch to kind of enhance the data. I ran Neil Carboni's action, the astronomy action tool set. I ran a local contrast enhancement. I went into a select and mask to just kind of do some select detail enhancement. I did a global curve stretch and anchored the dark point. So look, I kind of lowered it just a little bit here. I'm down to like 34. I did the unsharp mask to kind of sharpen up the details. And then I just ran a global space noise reduction. So this image here, we're not really going to use. We're only going to use the red channel out of this, which is our HA data. So let's check that red channel out. So you can see tons of data here. So what we're going to do first is we have to make a composite image or a modified red channel for the RGB. So we're going to blend the red channel of the RGB with this HA data here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a new canvas by going Control A, Control C. Remember, I'm in the red channel of the HA data only. And I'm going to hit Control N as in Nancy. And I'm going to call this HA, let's do it, capital HAR. Hit Create. And I'm going to hit Control V, and that pastes it in there. So when you do that, it wants to go grayscale. So let's click our layers over here. The first thing we're going to do is come up here to Image, Mode, and change that to RGB. Okay. Let's duplicate that layer and rename this one HA, so we know what's what. Now we're going to come back over here to the RGB. We're going to go into Channels. Go to our red channel. All right, so we're in here to our red channel. We're going to hit Control A, Control C, and go to this HAR new canvas that we made and hit Control V, and that pastes that selection on top. And let's rename it HaRgb. So our RGB data is our set align data. And what we don't want to do is align it to the HA because they're different. I'm pulling the camera out, I'm swapping filters, putting the camera back in. I'm getting as close as I can, but it's not perfect. So we want to align this HA data to the RGB first. So let's take that HA, push it up on top. Let's change the opacity mode down to like 50%. So now we've got to align these two channels. And because we're out of rotation just a little bit too, let's find center, which is right around the horse head. Zoom in here, let's get that close. You can use your arrow keys on your keyboard to kind of match it up. So you can see we need to rotate it. So what we do is hit Control T, and that basically gives us a free transform screen where we can rotate this down and now move it over, and we're getting really close. A lot of times it helps to just turn those layers on and off. You can go ahead and hit this check button and it's going to check it right there. Let's just turn it on and off. You'll see the stars moving just a little bit. So we still have some more alignment work to do. So hit the move tool. We want to focus on centering up the center stars. I have noticed that the Opalong and Hell, Lord of mercy, I swear. The Opalong L Enhance data is typically at a different scale. So if you notice up here, none of our stars are lined up like it has to go that way. But you'll notice it has to go that way on this other set too a lot of times. So it's just a matter of playing with it. And sometimes I have to actually use the warp tool and just work my way around the edges. So our center is lined up pretty good. But unfortunately, and you can tell there's where we're going to be like cropping some of this data off. Let's hit Control T, and then we're going to come in here and right click on that. We're going to go warp. Because we've got all of our stars are aligned except for over here. So what do? I mean, all this stuff is aligned, but over here you're not. So we're just going to work our way around, grabbing these little tabs here. See, I'm just aligning these stars. And this is the tedious process that can be mitigated by being tedious with aligning your camera back when you change filters or having a filter wheel, which hopefully will be in my future. So you can tell I'm just moving this around until I got a good average. And because I'm shooting a video, I'm not going to be as uber precise as I was when I first processed this, because this is really not about star alignment, it's about blending these two data sets. So I'm going to call that good. Set the check button up here. That sets it. Stars aren't moving too much. So what we want to do is we have the HA on top, RGB on the bottom. We want to blend that down. I found that like low 40% is about the best. So you can see this is the RGB. When we add the HA, we're getting a lot more detail up here. So we like it. Let's right click on it, merge down. So then what we're going to do is hit Control A, Control C. We're going to copy this new composite image. We're going to go back in here to our RGB and go over here to the channels, go into the red channel, and hit Control V. So when I did that, I saw it jump. So let's turn the eyeball on or off just a little bit. So we're going to hit our Remove tool, and there. I can't explain why it does that, but you definitely need to watch that because it can not line up on you. Turn our blue channel on, and there we've got a good composite image. So we come in here to layers, we'll go in here to the history, which is this area up here. If we do select canvas, you can see, I'm pointing at it. You can see, hey, you can see me pointing here. You can definitely tell that we have enhanced this image. Okay, so now we need the straight up HA red channel data again, which if we come back over here to this composite image that we made, this is our composite image, this is our straight up HA data. Let's delete this layer. So this was the hydrogen alpha red channel that we pulled out of the Optilong L-Enhance data. So it's not going to be lined up, and we're going to have to align it again. But what we can do is come over here and hit Control A, Control C. Remember, Control A selects all, Control C copies it. Come back over here to the horsehead RGB data set. Let's duplicate that layer just in case we want to start over. We don't want to mess this up. Let's rename this one RGB, and we're going to hit Control V. Just going to paste that HA layer on top. So here's our HA, here's our RGB. Before we do anything else, we're going to have to lower the opacity 50%, and we're going to have to line these up and go through that process again. And like I said, because we need to rotate, we want to zoom back out, kind of eyeball center, and try to line that star up and use that as a reference point to, which is basically these stars. And I'm using my arrow keys because they have real fine-tuned adjustment. So we zoom back out, hit Control T, that gives you this transform box where you can rotate. And you see the little arrow will turn to this little curved. When it does that, just left click and then just move the mouse up and down to rotate into place. We're close. We're still in a move selection. And now I'm just using the keys to really fine tune that move. As I'm saying, it's looking pretty good. Let's look at it up here. See, once again, I think we need to right click and hit warp. I'm just going to come right here to this little tab here and just eyeball it. I hope you can see this on YouTube. Just work our way around, zoom in real slow. And we're warping. If you guys know of a better way to do this, definitely leave me a comment. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is a little tedious. And like I said, because this is just a YouTube video on blending the colors and information, we're not going to spend a lot of time fretting over star alignment. We could, if you want to, but we're not. So I think we're close. We're going to take that opacity, raise it back up to 100%. So let's completely turn that eyeball off. Here's our HAR composite RGB with the modified red channel. So we're going to select that. We're going to come in here to filter, noise, dust and scratches. And I like I don't really want to be real aggressive with this. I have it set to a radius of 5. I could set it up here and really get rid of the stars, but you see it really jacks up the horse head there. So I think 5 reduces the stars, but you still maintain, you know, a fair amount of detail. We're going to click OK to that. We're going to turn our HA layer back on that we just aligned. We're going to go here and go change it from normal, change the blending mode to luminosity. And right off the bat, you're like, ew, this is pink. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, I'm supposed to see magic. Some crazy looking magic. But what we do is, with this top layer selected, we're going to drop the opacity down. That starts to help. We're going to come in here to Image, Adjustment, Curves, and we're going to pull it down just a little bit. Click OK, and then go and select our RGB layer down here, and go Image, Adjustment, Curves, and we're going to raise it up. And I notice though that I do need to introduce a little bit of contrast when I do that. And click OK. And we probably can just push that down just a little bit more. Let's bring that top layer down, not in levels, but we're going to go back up here to Image, Adjustment, Curves. Bring that top layer down just a little bit. And click OK. So now you can see tons of detail, tons of gas, but we've still got kind of a pink image, and I'm going to show you how to get some of that red back here really quick. So I think if I adjust the opacity layer on that top, we can get it pretty close, but we're starting to lose some of our detail, which we don't. So I'm going to leave it at about high 60%, and I'm going to merge that down. So now we've basically committed. We've got a composite image here. There's our background image. Here's our new. So first thing I want to do, as you can tell, we had to kind of do some alignment. We're off. So let's go in here and crop this. We still got a lot of good star color though, which is good. And hit Image, Crop. So we got a good little star glow from All in Attack up there. And so what we're going to do here is come in here to our Select tab, go to Color Range, and we're going to select that color right there. Sample Colors is set up here at the top. Select that color. We're going to adjust the feather and click OK. So now we're coming back up here to our Select tab, go Selected Mask, and then let's feather that selection. About 30, 40 pixels, click OK. We maintain some structure, but we blended it pretty good. We're going to hit Control J, and it pushes that up on top. And then come over here to Image, Adjustment, and come down here to Selective Color. I want to change the colors over here to neutral. And I'm going to pull the cyan out of it. Increase the magenta just a little bit. And the yellow. See, that starts to get up some of that deep red back in there. Click OK to that. And we can duplicate that layer. And this copy that we have here, we can change it to overlay. Bam, look at that. It's crazy. I'll push that back down and bring it back up just subtly. That starts to get some of the red that we're used to seeing back in there. So basically with that done, we want to select that, go to this RGB layer down here. Whoops, select it. Hit Shift, select that one, right click, merge layers. So let's duplicate that copy again. Let's go filter, actually select color range, select that inner core, feather it down, and then come back up here to select the mask. Let's filter that selection, click OK. Control J to push it up on top. Let's do the same thing again. Image, adjustment, selective color. Let's keep it on the red this time. And maybe we can push those colors just a little bit. See, that starts to get a little, basically what we're doing is we're adding color to that. This is all of our information here. And the black, the more you add, the deeper your color is going to be. See how I'm taking it away? Click OK to that. Come over here to the filter. We're going to go in here to camera raw filter, and we're going to add some clarity and some vibrance and a little bit of saturation, and click OK to that. See, now we're getting a pretty cool looking image here, man. I'm telling you. So let's merge that back down. So we got some of this faint stuff out here. Let's come back over here to select color range. Try to click right in here. See, it almost highlights the whole rest of the image. We'll pull that down in here to kind of fine tune that selection. Go back over here to select tab, select the mask. Let's feather that. There's a lot of nebulosity here that Optilong L-Enhance picked up. So Control J, push it up on top. Let's go over here to Image, Adjustment, Curves. We're going to choose our red channel, and we're going to push that up. Right about there. And then we're going to come over here to Image, Adjustment, Selective Color. Go in here to the neutrals. Pull some of that cyan out. Push the magenta in and the yellow. See, now we've got like an area in here we've got to work on. You see how that really enhanced it? Let's pull that back just a little bit. And click OK. Now we've got this little bit of white still left in here. Merge down, select color range. And it's just a matter of just taking your time with this thing. See, now it really just pulled all that little white area, whitish pinkish area in. Select a mask. It's just a repeat. It's rinse and repeat, man. Feather it out. Control J to push it on top. And the reason we do Control J is if we want to go into the, what am I trying to say, the camera raw filter, we have to have that separated because or else it's going to work on everything. So completely separate it out. Image, adjustment, curves. We're going to go in here to the red channel. Pull it up just a little bit. Click OK. Go to Image, Adjustment, Selective Color. Let's go in here to the neutral. When it's white like that, we're going to pull that cyan out. Push our magenta up. Let's see, we're just filling that in. Really just working our way back through all this pink is kind of what we're doing now. And enhancing that detail. So we can come in here to the select color range, grab this pink again, push that feather. We're just working our way back through this thing. Select the mask, feather it. You can definitely tell when you do this, it's not just a one-off done kind of a process. Nothing you do out here or in processing is going to be just one click and you're done. It's really working the system back through to get the colors that you like. I've probably oversaturated this and I'm trying to fill it in, but for the most part, I'm really just trying to work that back in. So you can definitely tell, like adding that cyan almost gets rid of our nebulosity, and that's not what we want. I want it right there. So I could spend a whole bunch more time on this video working on these colors, but I'm not, because what I'm basically showing you here is how much more we have now added by adding those two channels together. Usually the flame nebula has got a little yellow in it, so we can come in here to select color range, try to get that flame. See, we got just that little area in here. Let's feather that selection and the selective mask, and then click OK. Control J, put it up on top. Like I said, you're just picking stuff up and putting it back down. And then we can come back in here to image, adjustments, selective color, and we're going to go in here to the neutral tab, and let's push our yellow up. Get some more yellow in there. You take that magenta out, and then you see adding some of the black details actually adds detail to it. So we can merge that down, and we probably got too aggressive with the red down in here, but you could definitely see. I think though the main thing to see though is the amount of detail and gas and nebulosity that's brought in here if you really spend your time and work on it. One thing that really helps that I always like to do is a good star reduction. So we can come in here to, before we do anything, let's save that. Let's go File, Save As. And we're going to call this, let's date it. I always like to date everything, 2/7. And we're going to call this HaRgb. Okay, and yes, I know there's a lot of layers. So let's flatten it. So come in here to Layer, Flatten Image. This pink's driving me crazy. Let's come in here to Select Color Range. See if I can get some of this out. Get a little more red out of it. Select the mask. You're like, come on, dude, seriously? Just leave it alone. Control J. Go down here to Selective Color. To me, I've found the Selective Color is like the best way to really ooh, look at that. So we're just pushing these colors up to try to get that red back in there. That's pretty cool. One thing we can do here, you know, we've got a lot of stars and they don't really detract from this image as much, but reducing them would really help the image, I think. So we've basically got two layers here, and I've been through the star reduction process, but I've got one more little process here that's pretty cool. That I want to show you here. So first thing we're going to do is hit our astronomy action tool sets. We're going to come over here to select bright stars. Let that run. So now it's basically selected our stars here. We need to modify that selection so we get all the stars. So we're going to come to the Select tab, Modify, Expand. Let's expand that by 3 pixels. So now we've got a good selection around the stars. So let's come back up here to the Select tab, Modify, Feather. Let's feather it by 2 pixels. Back out. Take a look at it. Hit Control J to hide that selection. Then come over here to Filter, Other, Minimum. And I got it set to 0.4. And like I've said before, and the preserve is set to roundness. Like I said before, you're going to get more reduction once you hit that OK button. So let's go 0.8 on that and click OK. You can always go back if you don't like it. So before, after. So before, after, got a pretty good star reduction there. Sometimes I like to paint them back in, and I've showed you guys that before, but this time I'm not. I'm just going to merge that down. So kind of a new technique that I've come up with for some further star reduction is I'm going to duplicate that layer. And I'm going to duplicate it again. I'm going to come to this layer right here, and I'm going to rename it Dust. Then come to this background layer up here, and I'm going to rename it Darken. So with this layer selected, I'm going to come out here to Select Color Range, Sample Color. Just choose that right there. I want to get the detail. So hit the plus button on your eyedropper tool. Let's try to get about that much. And click OK. That's not what I wanted. So hit Select, Deselect. Let's do that again. Select, Color Range, and click OK. Now, that's what we wanted. So let's go here to Select a Mask. So we've got quite a bit of detail in here. We're going to feather that pretty good. And then click OK to that. And then Control J to put it up on top. So let's turn it off. Let's turn off the darken layer. Let's come in here to the dust layer. We're going to go back in here to dust and scratches. So filter, noise, dust and scratches. So I'm going to leave it set to a radius of 5. I found that to be pretty good. I still have a fair amount of detail with the horse head, but I really wiped out a lot of those really kind of pesky little background stars. So click OK to that. Select this tab here that we named Darken, turn it on. You see it brought everything back. We're going to come in here, we're going to change the blending mode to Darken. So if you zoom in, if you at least attempt to zoom in, you can tell that the horse is kind of blurry and fuzzy. And now we're starting to build some of that sharpness back. And then all we do is we turn on this top layer. And so basically we have reduced a lot of the stars around there, but we still have all of our detail features. And then it's a matter of just kind of playing with the opacity of this dust and scratches. I like to kind of bring that back in just a little bit. See how it brings in just a few little stars. This little top layer, we can bring it back just a little bit. So I like it. So select that. One thing you got to do is you can't merge it down, because if you do, you lose everything that you did. So select that, shift key, select the dust layer, right click, merge layers. So I'm digging it. So right now, another thing we can do is I think we could probably sharpen up this horse head a little bit. And a really cool way that I've discovered to do that is we're going to duplicate that layer in case we don't like it. But we can rename this one Smart Sharp. So come over here to Filter, Sharpen, Smart Sharpen. And this is pretty powerful from what I've been able to tell. You've got some noise reduction. I like to set the, what I want to do is remove the lens blur, not the Gaussian blur. We can push that amount up just a little bit. This is kind of like a little pan button here. So we can do our preview. And I think I like it. It doesn't take much. Let's click OK, and it's pretty detailed because you can see it's got to work this thing in here. So we'll look at the before and after when this thing processes, because my computer's pretty slow. It's really slow. It's like awkward silence slow. Okay, so not a huge change, but enough. So we could duplicate that layer, and I like to just kind of run back through the camera raw filter, just kind of work on some of the highlights. So I'll boost the clarity. You can see that really sharpens things up. We can bring in a little vibrance and then drop down our saturation. That takes it all out. Or we can leave it alone. Come over here to the tonal curve and boost those highlights. That really gets some of this area in here to start to shine a little bit more. And then just introduce a little luminance and color noise reduction. And click OK. So I know this is fast. I know I could really work on these colors, but man, would you look at that? Like seriously, would you look at that? What we've been able to do here. Let's see here. This is our HaRgb. Let's go in here to the history. I mean, this is where we pasted it in, and this is where we finally ended up. Pretty good detail. And these were the two HA layers that we did. So I mean, you really look at all this detail in here. We could probably come in here to the image and go to levels, and we're at 41, so we could bring that down. And it's pretty lined up to like 34. And man, that just, that made it sing right there. I mean, that's a crazy looking image. So anyway, I hope it helped. I hope it was explained, because I've watched videos, you know, there's definitely been videos out there that have explained how to do this process, and I had to watch them like 6 times to try to understand. And so hopefully this helped. It reached somebody, touched somebody, got somebody, got one of you guys' attention, and helped you out and how to combine those two data sets. And definitely don't be scared to use that Optilong L Enhance for your hydrogen alpha data. Even though it's a duo narrowband, it pulls in a lot of data. So until next time that I think of something else to shoot a video on, clear skies and clear minds.